Well, the Mighty Dash is sure looking good. Parked at the International Terminal at Boston's Logan Airport, ready for another leg on its around-the-world journey. The Mighty Dash's captain, on the other hand, is just a little bit under the weather. Been battling the flu and basically taking this flight because I've got cabin fever. I've been stuck here at home for the last couple days, sipping some wonton soup and pounding some other fluids and just waiting for the ibuprofen to kick in. So we are going to do a slightly inadvisable thing, which is hop in the front seat of an airliner and go flying, but it's either that or go crazy. So we'll button up here. We're going to Montreal. Should be a good day for it. Short flight. Let me show you how we're going to get there. We're echoing the route that our friends over at Air Canada Jazz took in another dash just a few hours ago. And that is to pop out of Logan on the Highland for departure, fly up to Manchester, and then from Manchester go northwest to Lots, and from Lots get on the Carter 2 arrival to Montreal. So let me show you how that goes. And I'm only slipping slightly into an accent because I'm vaguely remembering a few years back when I lived in the Boston area, lived in a town called Maynard, which is where Digital Equipment Corporation was. No longer exists as such. It was bought up by, merged with Compaq, and worked selling stereos for a electronics chain called Tweeter, which not sure exists either. Anyway, this is the Highland FAR, and we're going to take off of runway 15 right, fly out to Foxborough, and hook a left, head towards Marblehead, and then back up to Manchester. And I'll give the accent a rest at this point because it's only going to aggravate my laryngitis and probably aggravate any viewers in Boston who know how to do it better than I do after all these years. Anyway, what we're going to do is just pop into a tower view here. We are just going to back up nose right, and we're going to go to this here taxiway, jump onto 15 right, fly out on runway heading, then make a little left turn and get going. The Air Canada flight flew up at 16,000 feet. We're going to aim for a little bit higher than that just because we're fairly lightweight at the moment. And let's just see what our V speeds are going to be. All right, and it's a cool day, and got reasonably good performance here. So we're buttoned up. Let's do the pre-start. Bus ties tied. Heats are off. Exterior light, anti-collision light can come to red. Bleeds are off. APU bleed is now off. We'll turn our start selector to number 2. We will lock our steering. Make sure our gust lock is on. It is. Everything else is good. I've already set the FMS on our route. and it's an RNAV departure, and we've got no nav aids to speak of to work off of until we get to Manchester, but we're going to be flying Pink Needles most of the way and then flying an ILS arrival probably from the west into Montreal. So anyway, let's call for the push. Data services push. We want to go, well, we want to go straight back first and then nose right. I don't want to run into anything.
Ground, we are ready for pushback.
We are ready now.
Thank you, Gunter.
Parking brakes released.
Pushing back now. You're clear to start the engine number 2.
So we will. And I'm going to monitor our push here, because as soon as we're clear of this jetway, I want to push nose right. Tends to do it kind of abruptly, so let's see where we're going. Let's go straight here. And a little more right. And give it a rest right there.
Pushback completed. Set the parking brake.
Parking brake set. Can we get clearance at number 1?
Control is free and clear of nose gear. Clear to start the engine number 1. Have a nice flight.
So, our German first officer will start number 1. We will turn our nose wheel steering back on. We'll see that we haven't broken anything, hit anybody, and we haven't. And if I'm not mistaken, we want to, I know I'm cheating here, going through the roof and all, is we will go out to this taxiway here. All right, we've set runway heading, which is 151. That'll be our check. We will turn off our gust lock, check our control surfaces. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. We'll turn on our pumps. And our auxes here. These will not come up until we advance our props, so we will. And at that point, our standby hydraulic pressurizes. Check number 3. Watch it come up. Good to go there. Set our takeoff flaps. Check our elevator trim. Check our aileron trim. Check our rudder trim's about 10 right, and it is. Set acceleration altitude. 1,000 feet above field elevation, which will be about 1,020, 1,030. That's good enough. We will set our decision height back to 200 because that's our ILS decision height if we decide to come back here. Let's have that ready to go. We'll check our field elevation and check our altimeter is set 3050. That is correct. Okay. Check our panels and we'll turn off our bus tie, turn on all of our heats, but not our anti-ice. Everything is clear except for the parking brake. Our bleeds have to come on now. On min, turn off the generator, turn off the APU. And set our landing altitude to where it's going to be in Montreal. It's good. On come the taxi lights. On comes the logo lights. These should have been on a long time ago, but now they are. All right. And do a quick takeoff warning test. And not sure why it is showing that. But it does that sometimes. Let's taxi on out to our active runway. 15 right. Got a slightly displaced threshold, so we'll use the whole runway. We could just as easily do an intersection departure because this is 10,000 feet of runway, but we shan't. All right. Do our takeoff checks. Landing light can come on, taxi light can come off. Anti-collision can go to white. Bus ties are off. Heats are on. APU is off. Bleeds are on and min. Seatbelt signs are on. Okay, emergency lights are armed. I just wanted to cycle that. Anti-skid is on. Ah, yaw damper is off. That's probably what was giving me my config warning. All right, auto feather is on, pumps and auxes are on. Flight plan is set. Landing gear pins are in and stowed. So now, I'll bet you dollars to donuts when I hit this little button here. It's still gonna go on. Let's go through the rest of our stuff. Nose wheel steering is on. Okay, pitot static and isolation switch is normal. Number 3 is tested. I don't know why I'm going through this because sometimes it just does it anyway. All right. Takeoff trim. Set. Flaps. Let's cycle them. Set. Rudder trim set. Gust lock off. Arc dews on. Everything possible set. And let's see if we get a takeoff warning. All right, well, since everything looks highly copacetic, Everything else has been set. I can't see a single thing wrong. All of our breakers are good. I say let's go flying. Let's try this. Put us in toga mode. Check it again. No. Okay, there's no good reason except that there's something wrong. Oh, we're clear to the left. We're clear to the right. We'll line up and wait. Triple checking that our gust lock is off, and it is. We'll check that our heading is the same as our runway heading, and it is. And so we're going to fly this heading until 520 feet, and then we're going to turn left to 132. Okay, power set. .80 knots, V1, and rotate. Very positive rate. Gear up. Okay, there is 520. And we'll just turn to 132. And we're there already. Pop ourselves into nav mode. And we're above 1,000 by a long shot. We'll bring back our props. We'll pitch down a bit, bring in our flaps, accelerate, and fly ourselves up to cruising altitude. First things first is we'll get ourselves into IAS mode to climb. Square up our heading bug. Trim ourselves out a little bit on the rudder. And we will try to get cleared direct to Manchester. Save ourselves a little bit of time. Save the company a little bit of fuel. Okay, IAS, autopilot in, LNAV. And before we do that, let's get ourselves squared away with our auto feather and our pumps. And our bleeds, bring them to normal. As we make our way around. You know what? We might as well fly this star. This SID, because it's not going to save us a lot of time going direct. Get a nice view of the Boston area. At least until it gets gobbled up in the fog there. There we go. That is Portsmouth, New Hampshire, right around there. 10. So I'll do our 10,000 foot drill here. Which ain't a lot. Let the passengers get up. Check everything else is good to go, and it is. And we are climbing sharpishly, as they say. Just want to check my frame rates here. I've been fiddling around with settings. Looks good. Square up our heading bug. And I'm going to tune in Manchester here just so I've got something to back up my flight plan with. As it's been pointed out, the FMS already is using Manchester as part of its calculations. It's just not presenting it for us. And I can't read Manchester. Let's try to find it. A high altitude. 114.4. So we'll pop into our arc do and present it for ourselves. Just as a sort of backup. And we'll set it up so that we're displaying VOR1 right there. So at the moment you can see my little white popsicle here is pointing this way, and that is very simply because Manchester happens to be that way. And in a moment we'll turn towards it. If you want, you can see we'll present, try and get into the right position here. We can show as our nav source here on this side, nav 1, and you can see we are turning into, that's where it's going to be, and that is our CDI. And if I turn the course right over here so it lines up with that, you'll see we'll cut into it as we turn. We're essentially going to be intercepting a radial towards inbound to Manchester, which is 37 miles away. And if you wanted to find a direct course to it, we just flip this around. Oops, there. Alright, so we're above 180. We'll set standard altimeter. And we're a little less than 1,000 away from our top of climb. And you can see we're making our way closer inbound to Manchester. And we're fighting quite a crosswind here. Alright, 1,000 to go. Pull our props back to max cruise. take a quick look out at the scenery here. Not a bad looking day. This is prepared 3.1, by the way, and a slightly newer beta version of the Majestic Pro. Just came out a couple days ago. It's up on their site, which makes everything work properly with 3.1. EasyDock works okay with it. Orbix just updated its object flow libraries, so all would seem to be well. So now that we're up at cruising altitude, let's start planning our descent, because it's not a very long flight. Okay. We are making our way towards Manchester, which is right there. This is, I think, Beverly, Massachusetts. And I believe this is the old Pease Air Force Base. Anyway, our first constraint is ebb dot at below 11,000, which seems odd because I could have sworn that it was 11,000 or above on the chart, but let's take a look. Ebb dot here. This is the Carter 2 arrival. And ebb dot, no, it's ebb dot, okay, good, below 11,000. It's lats that's 11,000 or above, so, alright. Let's just make lats 12,000. Not a bad place to be. And choose VNAV. Lats. It's already got the 12,000 we put in there. Yep. Good. You know, I don't know why it does that. Gives us an unreasonably steep approach and then a top of descent unreasonably far away. Let's just set this at 1,800 feet per minute and see if it does it right. If not, we'll do it manually. Alright, we'll actually see what this looks like at our top of descent. Meantime, the textures are FTX Global here, but when we cross over to Canada, we've also got Orbix's Open Land Class North America, which is not out yet for southern North America as in the United States, but is out for Canada and Alaska. And in the areas where you don't have a full Orbix scenery region, it makes an enormous difference. It keeps the textures from becoming too repetitive. So, excuse me, but I'm going to have plenty of fluids right now. While we're at it, let's check our weather in Montreal. I hope it's at least a little bit sporty. Alright, no winds to speak of. Scattered at 12,000, broken 17,000, broken flight level 240. Cloudy but not bad. Alright, nothing too drastic, but we're going to, for convenience sake, for a short taxi, we're going to, and also the maximum flexibility in case we need to, in case the weather deteriorates, is we're going to expect runway 6 left ILS, And let's just get our runway elevation and all the rest of that. And these are Transport Canada charts, and I always lose the right altitude. So 057. And I think the touchdown zone is 56 feet, but you know where I can check? We can always look at our database and our FMS. It's not the same as looking at a plate, but it should be correct. $118 feet. Now let's see if we can find that on our plate. Okay, that's the lighting. That's our MSA in different directions. That's all nice. Ah, touchdown zone elevation, 98 feet. It's right there, which is a very good place for it. 057, 98 feet. And 9919, 9920, 10,000. It's an 11,000 foot runway. 11,098 feet. So we'll set our HUD. And elevation is 9.8 and a standard glide slope, and now our HUD is set. Because if you don't have that right, it won't display the proper runway length remaining, and it won't give you the right vertical cues either, because it doesn't know how high the touchdown zone is, so you won't be able to get the right flare cues, and it can be a real dog's breakfast. And if I had to guess, we're right over Manchester, and we are, which is why we're not receiving the station at the moment, but we will again, because we are in the zone of confusion, or the cone of silence if you're a Get Smart fan. And if you don't know what Get Smart is, ask your great uncle. Alright, so Montreal weather is 3046 at the moment, and as you can see, our Manchester came alive again, and now it's pointing behind us because we just crossed over. Alright, 3046, we'll put that in our standby. And speaking of weather, I'm going to shut up for a minute and take my temperature. Oh, swell, it's only 100.5. Okay. You know, I could have kept talking if I didn't have to use an oral thermometer, but you know, trade a little accuracy for convenience any old day. Check our cabin altitude, make sure it's fine, and it is. I took off a little while ago on another flight with the bleeds off, and damn near suffocated. And as you can see, we are crabbed off by a good 2328 is what we're flying. And yeah, we're 10 degrees off. So it's a windy day. Check our weather radar here. Put it up on the first officer's side. You do that by hitting the, first of all, by making sure that that this MFD is in nav mode, and then what you do is you toggle between weather and terrain like so, and you'll get a display. It says WX on, and it sweeps through here, and let's see what it can see. Not a ton. Let me just point it down slightly. Let's just see. There's nothing really above us. So tilt it down a few degrees and see if that changes anything. If you tilt it down too much, obviously you start picking up the ground. Alright. Nothing. If I'm not mistaken, and I could be mistaken, I believe that's the Merrimack River, which heads out over yonder, and is quite pretty in parts, and in other parts is sort of was home in years gone by to hundreds and hundreds of shoe factories and textile mills. And it was a obviously it was a very busy commercial navigational route in the colonial and immediately post-colonial times. And there was a whole system of canals that fed off of it and off of the Nashua River and the Connecticut and Housatonic, all for basically getting stuff from workshops like that to ports. And if you're ever up in New England, just west of Boston, it's worth taking a trip to a place called Old Sturbridge Village. It's sort of like a Williamsburg for New England, only it's not quite as precious and not quite as hoity-toity. It basically, they try to preserve it as a semi-sort of working museum, so they have farms and blacksmiths, and I think they've got a working canal boat at the by now, and it's a nice place to go, especially in the wintertime. Used to be a very cozy, sort of homey place when I was growing up in the late 60s, early 70s, and it expanded a bit to handle a lot more people, so it's a little less folksy than it was, but it's not in the least bit sort of Disney World. It's done with a lot of integrity. There is a gift shop, and you can buy crap, but you can't buy crap in the actual sort of preserved village part of it, only near the parking lot outside. That's where the crap is available. Other than that, it looks like you're wandering through a New England village at the turn of the 19th century, so it's pretty cool. Let's just check on our top of descent. We should be getting there pretty shortly. Just checking our no links, make sure those are all part of our missed approach. And going to make a quick mental note of our missed approach, which is runway heading and then a climbing left turn and then direct to the Dorval VOR, but meantime, all right, we're 20 from our top of descent. A little less than that. We're making a nice, going at a nice clip. You know, while we're at it, since we're going to Montreal, let's just quickly see how les habitants are doing. And they are leading their division. Little did I know, flying between Boston and Montreal, I would be going from number 2 to number 1. I see my Penguins are not doing so hot, but the Habs are doing well. They are, as they say, putting the biscuit in the basket. Now, when I was growing up watching hockey as a kid, these were the kind of gentlemen I was rooting for or rooting against. That is Guy Lafleur, the great Guy Lafleur. The blonde demon, as they say. And let's see who else. Of course, growing up in the Boston area, the great Bobby Orr, right there. And Phil Esposito. His teammate, there we go. Looking good. Looking an awful lot like Jay Leno. They didn't wear helmets then, so you knew who they were. And there we go. Boston's rampaging Phil Esposito. Played for the Rangers, too, at a certain point. And there we go. That is the winning shot in the 1970 Stanley Cup. Anyway, so we are we're not flying into Loserville here. Now, let's get set up for our ILS. The weather isn't changing, so we'll expect this, and it is 1093 at 057. So pop up our and we'll put this on both sides so we can do a legal Cat 2 approach if we want, or even a Cat 3. Not sure if this runway is a Cat 3 runway, but I think I got that wrong, and I did. 1093, that would be the Fever talking. There we go. And we'll set 057. For our course. Round and round and round she goes. Where she stops is 057. Alright, that's done. Do that on the first officer's side. Make sure that he's drawing from nav 2. He's not, but now he is. And we'll set a course also for 057. And that is done. Alright. Coming up on TOD. And we will want that to be 12,000, so we'll set our altitude right there. There's 12. Other thing we'll do, since we got a minute or two, is we will check our route. Okay, there's the TOD. And there is our arrival, which looks a little bit clumpy, so what we'll do is we'll set our format. We'll scale ourselves all the way down, and we'll just fly it on the FMS. So you go to your flight plan, go to where you are, advance. Okay, there's Dunup, Peclo. Alright, so Peclo in essence is our base leg. And to Exalta, a little bit of a sharp turn, and down we go. Now at this point I may just extend this leg a little bit myself, pretend we're getting vectored, because this assumes no vector, and I believe there probably should be a vector right here, so we'll take care of that, because I think otherwise it'll be a little too tight to intercept. And we are all set to go down. Let's check our frames. I've got my frames locked at 30, by the way, and my screen locked at 30, and this is based on some advice by Rob Einskoff, who probably flies the most badass rig there is. He's got a 5960X and a pair of Titan X's, and he's got the thing yeeked up to about 4.6, and he seems to think that there is the least amount of stutter in P3D if you can get your frame rate to match your display rate, and it's very hard to do that consistently to 60, but you certainly can to 30, and essentially you're doing accidentally or incidentally the same thing that G-Sync would do. And what G-Sync does is it dynamically adjusts your monitor's refresh rate to match your frame rate, so there's never any waiting one device for another. But if you can force yourself to 30, force your monitor to 30, I think it should amount to almost the same thing, and at least as far as I've been able to tell, it's been very satisfactory so far. It's been very smooth. So we're just waiting for VNAV to display so we can get ready to go down. In the meantime, we'll set our V-speeds for our arrival. Use flaps 15, nice long runway. We'll spin up our VAP about 5 knots above that. Some people use this as the VREF and this as the VClimb. I'm using it as a placeholder for the VAP because it seems if you don't, your HUD speed target thing doesn't work or doesn't believe you. So if you set this as your VClimb, your HUD seems to indicate a correct speed that's about 30 knots faster than you should be. But I still have to experiment a little bit more with that. Meantime, I seem to be given over to the headache portion of my virus. Now you see all these sort of regular patterns here, and you can see them kind of repeating. With the open land class North America, when it finally gets down to this part of the world, south of Canada, a lot of these textures will be less regular and will be a lot more unique, a lot better differentiated. We picked up some ice, so on comes our ice protection. Just waiting for that to happen. Let's take a look at our windshield wiper stub, and you can see there's ice built up on it. It's a great way to tell if you got ice on the airframe. And as you can see, there's a little bit of ice on the prop spinners, and the control surfaces appear to be pretty good. So that's not too bad. But we've got these high clouds with some moisture in them, and that's probably what's doing it. The other thing we're fighting is just a monstrous headwind here off of our left nose. What I'm going to do is put in our standby, our YUL VOR, because we're going to use that for the missed approach. So, up we go. Plattsburgh, 116.3. So we'll, as they say in Great Britain, we will whack that into our standby. That way, if we go missed, all we have to do is hit our little transfer button and make our climbing left turn to 358 and then go direct to YUL. Alright, 7 minutes to TOD. Nice looking clouds. Double check our weather in Montreal. It is 3046 still, and the winds shifted around a little bit, but they're practically nil. It's just going to be a little bit off of our right nose. Off the right of our nose. I don't think we have a right or a left nose, but to open a speculation, let's quickly check our HUD. And we're in primary mode there. That is standby mode, that turns it off. And this toggles it to IMC mode. And back. And this dot is our flight path vector. And this is where our nose is pointed, so you can see there's quite a crosswind. We're pointed this way, but we're flying that way. That's our HSI, our BABA pole. Just waiting for our VNAV to start enunciating. And it will shortly. I actually don't like flying the HUD in instrument conditions until I'm on final approach, because I don't really want to look outside in a way. Because the visual cues come in and out, the clouds come by, they can be very confusing. So I actually prefer to stay heads down. Okay, we're 4 minutes away from TOD. And I'm wondering at this point why not enunciating yet here. Betcha it's because you have to be within 20 miles. Betcha when we hit 20, it's going to pop up the deviation thing. Let's find out. 0.2, 0.1. No, maybe it's based on time. Well, what I'm going to do, you know, our target, well, I'm just going to pop up our V2 at the moment and see that to get to LATS, we have to go down at 930 feet per minute. Just keep that in mind in case we have to do it ourselves. You know, I take that back. I cannot pretend to know how or why it does the things that it does. Okay, and our V2 is going up as it should, because we're not going down yet. And our TOD is creeping closer. And we've got 35 to LATS, so we can go down 9,000. We can go down 10,500 feet if we need to from right here. So, I mean, everything is... There we go. Don't know why I decided 2 minutes was a good thing at this point, but works for me. Alright, so we'll seat the passengers, and everything else can be as is. We're good. Our landing elevation is good. 500 feet above field. Course looks nice. Again, we'll make our decision when we're heading towards the fix immediately before Zolta. See whether we want to extend our downwind leg a little bit to make our intercept a little bit easier. Our altitude is set, and in a second or two, the pink vertical deviation indicator will start to come down, and we will start to go down. I believe this is Lake Champlain. I'm almost certain it is. And we're going to come in pretty quickly. There aren't any speed restrictions till 10,000, and we're going to be told to maintain our speed because the airport is busy. So we'll be happy to comply because the mighty Dash can do things like that. I love the cloud transparency. That is Rex soft clouds. So if we were in actual hard IMC, I would be looking just at this. And it is amazing how easy it is when you do, and how hard it is when you try and divide your attention between the inside and outside. I think, you know, in real life they warn about this, that you do not want to be half heads down and half heads up. But I did a great shared cockpit video with Helipilot, and he conjured up a fiendish flight into Missoula, Montana, in the middle of a mountain valley in really bad weather, and the approach involved a long GPS arc and a descent at the same time, and I flew the entire thing on pink needles by hand, heads down. And you know, as long as you're conscious of your power settings and you stay ahead of that and you keep your speed from fluctuating too much, you know, once you trim yourself out, it doesn't take much to fly that entirely heads down. But it is a matter of just getting the right feel for what everything does, and doing it so much that you can. All right, we're below 18,000, so we'll bring this up to 3046, which will briefly put us above our descent, and it runs the risk of popping us out of our VNAV mode here. So I'm just going to actually bring this in somewhat slowly, because if I bring it in too quickly, it'll disconnect. I'll have to reacquire and then start us into VNAV mode again. Okay, 3046. Let me just double check. 3046. There we go. Bada boom. Scale us down here. And because it's just me, we will, when we get to lats, we'll put in our pumps and our auxes and things like that. And in the meantime, I'm just keeping us right on the hairy edge here so that we can expedite this. We come up on Plattsburgh, I think. Yes, Plattsburgh. Which will actually be, yes, the beginning of our star. And once we get over Plattsburgh, you'll see the textures start to change as well. They won't be quite so repetitive as they are now. And we're getting a little fast, so bring back just a touch of the power. Some pilots like to keep it about 10 below barber pole, not because of safety reasons, but because they don't want to spend their entire time staring at this and tweaking at it. Alright, 1,000 to go. Now we're in VNAV path, so I've not set out cell because we're going to go down after that to 11. Alright, we are now at Platts, and we are doing okay. We've got 14 miles to go down 1,000 feet. I think we can do it. I don't know what the algorithm is, but I think it will, in this case, will descend us pretty quickly, then level us off instead of, yep, just slowing down our descent a little bit. And I've got an FMS message. Let's see what it is. Alerter above VNAV altitude. Yes, it is. We'll turn that down to 11. What you saw there was the message popped up right there, and that told me to go look at it right there. And actually, after that, our next one is 9, so I'm just going to dial the whole thing actually down to, I think 3 is where we're going to intercept the glide slope. We're not going to fly this the whole way down. What we'll do is we will level off at, take a look at our plate. We will level off at Peclo and then track outbound and loop around probably a little past Zolta, so maybe to Salisbury. Check what my restrictions are. Peclo at 4, Exalta at 3. So we will set that to 4. Put an outcell floor on it. And as soon as we get to Peclo, we'll keep flying outbound just a little bit. In heading select, flip over into Nav 1 instead of FMS, and take it from there. We will arm our approach, though. So if we get really lazy, we can fly it as a pink needle overlay, but we're not lazy. A little bit of a mess health-wise, but not lazy. Alright, so as we come... Now you notice how all the textures have all of a sudden gotten a little bit more varied and better reflective of sort of what they are. There's farmland here, and there's a little village there, and a little town there, so you can see. And we'll blow 10. Turn on our lights. Bring our bleeds to min. Turn on our pimps. And our standbys. And we are set to go in the HUD. And easy dock pause there for a minute. Actually, it's loading scenery. And that actually is the airfield up there, so we're going to head right up to about there. Hook a left, hook another left, and then loop back around this way. And we'll be nice. We just came through 10,000, so we'll slow to below 250. Actually set our decision height to 100. And we're going to let the autopilot and VNAV take us down all the way to Peclo, and then we're going to take it on our own. And again, I'm heads down here. I mean, we're in VMC, but you know, theoretically, we could fly this whole thing like that. You know, we could do it for practice. It wouldn't be very scenic, but let's give it a go, shall we? So keep an eye on airspeed. 9 altitude. There's our heading, which ultimately we're going to spin to 057, but at the moment, let's square ourselves up. Okay. Coming to Amsut. And I've got a very bad feeling here, because if you notice, they want us at 9,000 until Amsut, but then going down to Peklo in not very long a leg length. So I wonder how we're going to do that. Probably what we'll do is we'll consider that a minimum, and we will simply fly out a little bit until we descend enough. But we can't descend until we get to Amsut, so we won't. Hardly seems right. So I think what we'll do is we'll fly this approach down to Cat 1 minimums with our heads down. Alright, so let's cross Amsut, and then we'll get ourselves in heading select mode. We're basically on a long downwind leg here. See, we've only got 2.7 miles to Peklo, and it is not descending us. Okay, so we'll get into heading select mode, and we're just going to fly out this way, get us in vertical speed mode, and we'll start to come down. Now the other thing we'll do is, as we're doing this, just, I don't know why I like to be lined up, is we will switch our nav source, and you can see we're heading away from the localizer. We're 12 miles away, and we really do need to come down, and at this point we'll need to come down to 4,000 and then 3,000 on our base leg. And you can see we are considerably above the glide slope. So it is not a coincidence here. Cancel our VNAV. Okay. Alright, so we'll keep our speed from building up too much. And this is a 5-mile arc, so that's about 1,500 feet down. So when we're at about 4,500 feet, we can, well, when we're about 5,500 feet, because we're 5 miles away from here, so when we're about, yeah, about 5,500 feet, maybe 6,000 feet, we can make our turn and start to come back towards our course. And we'll just turn 90 degrees. Actually, we'll turn a little more than 90 degrees and set ourselves up for an intercept back going this way, because we've got lots and lots of space here. What I am going to do is slow us down, and there's our glide slope. See how it's rising up there? And actually, I can start to turn back right now, because by the time we get back, we'll be in better shape. So I'm going to slow us down to 200. And once we get to 200, I'll put out our first notch of flaps. Set ourselves up for the correct landing. Props. Now you see, we're below the glide slope, but we're above the MSA. Okay, 1,000 above, that's cool. And there's our intercept. And we are coming below 200. Okay, there we are. First notch of flaps. Pop ourselves into nav mode so we acquire the localizer. And then we'll wait for the glide slope and pop ourselves into approach mode. Okay, that's good speed to be at. About 180. Now we're looking for the CDI to come in, and when it does, the autopilot should capture it. Okay, it's moving. Let's see if we move with it. We do. Alright, so I'm going to spin our heading to 057, which is our runway heading. And here comes our glide, so I am also, in 1 second, going to pop us into approach mode. Okay, runway heading set. See, we're getting ourselves lined up right there. Okay. And into approach mode we go. And I'm going to wait for it to establish us on the glide slope. Set our missed approach altitude. Wait for everything to settle down. Okay, we're coming in on the localizer here. And I'm just waiting for it to start dropping us. Also going to disconnect our VNAV. There we go. And down we go. So, pop out the gear, bring us down to approach power. Slow us down so we can put out the rest of our flaps. Okay, another notch can come out, and flaps 15 can come out. And the autopilot can come out. So I'm just going to fly the pink needles here. Now this will leave you trimmed, so you don't have to do a whole lot of work. I'm just bringing up the nose a little bit so that we Slow down.
2,500.
Check. Bring up the nose. Bring up the nose. Bring up the nose. Bring up the nose. Okay, now bring up the power. Okay, 6 miles to run. We're bang on altitude. Making very tiny changes to everything. Not a lot. It's even easier with the HUD. A little bit of a crab going. Just ever so slightly high. Our speed is creeping up a bit, so bring that down. Okay. Just going to hold a little bit of left rudder because we're a little bit right.
1,000.
Just a little bit low. There we go. Okay, mile to go.
500. Plus 100.
Okay, and there we are.
Minimums, 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 minimums.
Yep, we are landing.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
And welcome to Montreal. And we will just take this turnout here. Anyway, that's how you fly an ILS approach down to minimums. Although in fairness, the Mighty Dash is a sweetheart when it comes to that. Especially with the new higher fidelity controls. You can basically let your fingers do the walking. And since it's a long taxi to the ramp, we will leave it there. Our next stop is going to be Halifax, Nova Scotia. I don't know what that balloon is doing in the background, but hope they're having fun. And hope you're having a good Christmas weekend. And I will see you all very, very soon. And 300 subscribers. Thank you, everyone. Best Christmas gift ever. See you later.